Reviews have been around for decades now. Assessing and alerting people whenever something is good or not is essential to every ecosystem where people pay for a product, and trust is a main factor in whether that system works or not. Over the last 6 years, we have seen a significant decrease in the trust that people have in reviews, leading people to confide more in user-created reviews than traditional publication ones. More people playing and giving their opinions on a particular thing amounts to more knowledge for potential buyers, and this is especially helpful when mainstream reviews are glowing about a particular thing, but the public's reception is the opposite. My concern is, how can we trust in both systems when they're both so easily exploitable? The prominence of sites like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic have given a gateway to anyone wanting to share their opinions, be that good or bad. But when the system allows for blatant forms of tampering, we should start asking questions about the validity of said reviews. The act of review bombing a game has been around for the same time as the system itself, but the modern reasons for doing it is what causes my dismay of it. Review bombing should be a last resort idea for when a company or dev is unwilling to change or hear reason, and not used to oppose the most common conception of something for the sake of it. Nearly every game with hype around it falls victim to this. If you go to any of these sites offering a user-based system and you filter through the negative review section, you will most certainly find some of the most ridiculous takes known to man. Like this one, which is completely gushing about how much they enjoyed the game, yet they gave it a 0. Okay, maybe I'm not getting the sarcasm in this post, but my point still stands. How can you trust a system where a review like this directly contributes to the score shown next to it? And look, if you don't believe me, go search for yourself. This post is not an outlier. These type of reviews that make no sense are not only seen in the negative sections of review sites, mind you. The same thing is also happening in the positive sections as well. Reverse review bombing is the countermeasure to people review bombing a game, but again, this is also being abused. You will find that all games user scores are completely controlled by these practices and not the quality of the product. I'm pretty sure that if a group of people wanted to falsely inflate a game's score, they could, and it wouldn't be difficult for them. The naivety of people who regularly recommend judging games off their user score should really have a deeper look at what's happening within the system itself before saying they're always correct, because just a little scroll will tell you otherwise. I don't want to demonize user reviews, I just want the system that facilitates them to be better and not controlled by malevolent forces. After criticizing user reviews, I think it's only fair to do the same to the mainstream publication ones as well. Sites like IGN have for years been laughingstocks within the review space because of their half in, half out approach to gaming reviews. I think it's common knowledge to know that IGN on multiple occasions have half-arsed their reviews of certain games, but this approach to reviews is not exclusive to them. Times have changed and it is more common to find reviewers who don't fully complete the games they're reviewing, resulting in reviews of the first hours instead of the whole game. And this is especially damaging in cases where the end of the game is either buggy or outright just broken. IGN is just a very easy target for criticism because of their size, but let this be clear, they are not the only publication continually giving passes to certain developers. GameSpot, Game Informer, PC Gamer, the list goes on, they're all in cahoots with the developers because of their fear of losing early access copies of games. Publications are currently walking on tight ropes that if they walk over, result in them losing access to certain games, and this is where the system is completely broken. How can you trust in the mainstream narrative when they are being puppeteered by the overlord developers controlling what we see and think? Developer overreach has always been a thing, but not nearly to the extent that is seen today. Somewhere down the line, this type of behavior started becoming normalized within gaming spaces, and this is because of the dislike of these publications. Seemingly, the only way to get people to care about review codes not being universal is the exclusion of people's favorite YouTuber. Bethesda, the makers of Skyrim and the Fallout series, are notoriously known for doing this. Take for instance their newest release, Starfield, which almost entirely excluded anyone who was overly critical of their past game, Fallout 76. Starfield launched in somewhat of a good state for Bethesda, but imagine a world where Bethesda made another Fallout 76 and the reviews were too scared to be critical, resulting in them lying to the public. Publications have a responsibility in telling the truth about the products they review, and when this is not the case, they are no different from the marketing campaigns that these developers run. Rotten Tomatoes have recently come under fire for hosting reviews paid for by a PR firm called Bunker 15 on their website, which directly resulted in the scores of the movies they market going up, which once again reiterates that reviews can be untrustworthy. Looking through both user and mainstream reviews has shown me that any score on any site is not trustworthy. User scores are most likely determined by how much public outrage or love someone has for the product, and critical reviews are heavily influenced by the relationship the reviewer has with the company. Reviews are a form of expressing one's opinion about something, but in a time where people are dictating their purchases from a good or bad review, only means that companies wanting to boost their sales or reception get to lean in to paying people off to change the discourse around their products. The system and ethics around reviews needs to change for me to actually take it seriously. People should be able to go to any site and be greeted with an unbiased and trustworthy take on any product they're interested in, but getting to this point is going to take them to actually want to to do it. Why, if you're a critic being paid off, would you want the system to change? Because for them, it only grows their wealth. And if you're a company or PR firm, you love the ability to manipulate the conversation around your products. Getting to a world where we can trust anything a review says is an impossibility. So why do some people take what they say as fact? I will never understand the act of brigading a game for its review score, especially given what I've said. People love fighting about their thoughts and opinions, but when the backbone for their attacks are as brittle as they currently are, what is there to do but laugh? In reality, the only way to change the current system is to completely get rid of any reviewer found to be in the pocket of a developer abusing their power. But this isn't going to happen. For years, people have been saying the same thing I'm saying, and nothing happens because everyone forgets and moves on to the next controversy the week after. A lot of people say that the new form of YouTube reviewers are a solution to the corruption that sits at the top, and while I think they are generally more ethical, they still run into the same problems. Developers consistently gain favor with reviewers by flying them out to play their games early, and this is not exclusive to mainstream sites. YouTubers whose livelihoods rely on making critical pieces on games and developers are more often the people approached by developers, and I don't fault them if they give in and take the money, especially if they have families. Unless you're a massive channel making tens of thousands a month, taking a nice paycheck from a developer is a smart thing to do. The reason I don't have the same response for publications is very simple. Sites are not one person, they are many whose jobs are to be critical about the things they play or use. And the word job is important here. Normally sites give out salaries that give their reviewers a stable source of income, unlike channels whose one bad take could destroy their way of life instantly. In my opinion, the way people currently consume reviews is wrong. Looking only at the score and not as what is said within the review is a one-way trip to being supportive of the wrong thing. While the space is unwilling to change, we should not. Becoming more objective and looking at multiple reviews should be a must going forward. At the end of the day, not every review is a glamorization of the worst thing, but finding contradicting opinions then forming your own is what should be happening, and not parading around a score that ultimately means nothing. While thinking back on the many controversies that reviews have come by, it's actually insane to think that nothing has changed. We are still in a place where we give the people who should be the most accountable the most leeway. People always say that they don't think reviews are to be trusted, yet when their opinions justify their own, they hold them as truth. In conclusion, both user and mainstream site reviews have a lot of shortcomings. One is dictated by the public's reception and outrage, while the other is controlled by the developers of the game. And judging by the abundance of love towards user-created reviews, you would think that they were always to be trusted. And the same thing can be said for people's opinions of YouTube reviewers. But as I've shared, they're the same thing with just a different coat of paint. At the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is your own. And if that means taking possible false objections as truth, then so be it. But I think for the betterment of the space as a whole, becoming more spread and looking for multiple opinions outside of your already fixated gaze is not only good for the industry, but for you as well.